$2 million sat on the table. The safe had not opened in 11 years. 6 locksmith companies had tried. A retired federal technician had tried. 2 engineers from Germany had flown in with equipment that cost more than the average house. Nothing. The black steel door remained shut beneath a portrait of the man who had ordered it built. Then, Jonah Reed walked into the library wearing work boots with dried paint on the toes. Nobody applauded. Nobody even stood. He was not on the guest list. He was not one of the experts. He had come to repair a damaged service door at the rear of the estate. But when Jonah passed the safe, he stopped. Not for long. 3 seconds. Maybe 4. His eyes moved across the dial. Then the hinges. Then a tiny brass plate near the floor. The billionaire standing beside the desk noticed. So? Jonah looked at her. She folded her arms. You've been staring at it. He said nothing. Do you know how to open it? The room laughed. Jonah looked at the safe again. Then at the billionaire. Still nothing. She smiled. Cold, impatient, certain she had already won. I've offered $2 million to anyone who opens that door before Friday. Jonah lowered his toolbox. Her smile widened. You want to try? He did not answer. He only reached toward the safe. And 47 seconds later, the first lock moved. What nobody in that library understood was that Jonah Reed was not guessing. He had seen that safe before. Not that exact safe. The hand that built it. And what waited behind the door would cost someone far more than $2 million. If you've ever watched the quietest person in the room get underestimated, stay with Jonah. At 6:18 that morning, Jonah was making pancakes shaped like numbers. His daughter hated ordinary pancakes. 7. Jonah looked down. The pancake in the skillet looked more like a bent fishing hook. That's 7. Tessa sat at the kitchen table in striped pajamas. That's a question mark. It's abstract. It's burned. It's caramelized. You lie before coffee. Jonah smiled. Eat your 6. It's a 9. Turn the plate. Tessa rotated it. Oh, engineering, she took a bite. Jonah poured coffee into a chipped mug. Their apartment was small. 2 bedrooms above an old hardware store in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. The floor tilted slightly toward the harbor. In winter, the windows leaked cold air. In summer, gulls screamed from rooftops before sunrise. Jonah liked it. Tessa loved it. That mattered more. She was 10. Dark hair like her mother. Serious eyes like Jonah. She had already learned that adults often said we'll see when they meant no. So she preferred direct questions. She asked one now. Did Mr. Bell call? Jonah's hand stopped around the coffee mug. Last night. And? He wants the rent Monday. All of it? Generally how rent works. Dad, Jonah looked at her. Yeah, do we have it? Children were not supposed to ask questions like that. Jonah had spent 3 years trying to keep those questions outside the apartment. Bills stayed in the truck. Phone calls happened on the landing. Bad news waited until Tessa slept. But children listened through doors. Children watched grocery carts. Children noticed when fathers said they were not hungry. Jonah sat across from her. We're close. That's another way of saying no. You're getting difficult. I'm 10. Terrifying age. Tessa pushed the syrup around her plate. Am I still going on the Boston trip? Jonah's stomach tightened. The school trip. Science museum. Aquarium. 2 nights. $380. Payment due that afternoon. He had $50 in an envelope behind the flour container. Yes, Tessa looked up. Promise? Jonah did not answer quickly enough. Her eyes dropped. Tess, it's okay. No, I don't have to go. You're going. Kayla said her mom could bring me to the museum another time. You're going with your class. But Tessa, she looked at him. He held out his hand. She put hers in it. You are going. How? Advanced father mathematics. That's not real. Neither are your pancake standards. She tried not to smile. Jonah squeezed her fingers. I'll handle it. Promise? He hated that word. Not because he disliked promises, because he remembered every one he had failed to keep. He thought of Claire. Hospital lights, a winter coat hanging on a chair, her hand in his. Promise me she doesn't grow up afraid. That promise was harder than any lock Jonah had ever opened. He looked at his daughter. I promise. Tessa nodded. That settled it for her, which made it worse for him. At 7:02, Jonah loaded his toolbox into the back of his truck. The truck was a 12-year-old Ford with one rusted wheel arch and a heater that made a clicking sound whenever he turned left. On the passenger seat sat a folded work order. Vale Estate. Service entry door. Hinge alignment and lock replacement. 4-hour estimate. $240. Enough to cover the school trip if Jonah delayed the electric bill. Again, he started the truck. Tessa came running from the building. Dad. Jonah rolled down the window. She held up a small brass key. He stared at it. You forgot, Mom. Jonah looked at the key. It was not a house key. It had never opened anything he owned. Claire had worn it around her neck when they met. Old brass. Decorative teeth. A round bow etched with a tiny star. Her grandfather had given it to her. When Claire died, Tessa decided Jonah should keep it on his key ring. Jonah had removed it the night before while changing a battery in the truck remote. He reached through the window. Thanks. Tessa placed the key in his palm. You always carry it. I know. You said it was lucky. I said your mother thought it was lucky. Same thing. Jonah attached it to the ring. Tessa stepped back. Boston, he pointed at her. School, she saluted. He drove away. The Vale Estate sat 13 miles outside Portsmouth on a wooded peninsula overlooking the Atlantic. Jonah had seen it from the water. Almost everyone had. Gray stone, slate roofs, 3 chimneys, private dock, windows facing the ocean. It looked less like a house than a small college. The property belonged to Evelyn Vale. 46. Founder and Chief Executive of Vale Meridian Technologies. Data centers, defense systems, industrial robotics. Her net worth had been estimated at $6.8 billion. Her father, Augustus Vale, had built the first version of the company from a machine shop behind his house. Then Evelyn had turned it into an empire. Augustus had died 11 years earlier. The estate had remained mostly unchanged. Jonah knew none of that mattered to his job. Door, hinges, lock, invoice, leave, that was the plan. At 7:43, a security guard met him at the gate. Name? Jonah Reed. The guard checked a tablet. Maintenance contractor. Yep, company. Reed Property Repair. The guard looked at Jonah's truck. The lettering on the door had started peeling. Property looked more like Ropperty. Just you? Just me. Identification. Jonah handed over his license. The guard scanned it. Follow the driveway. Service court is around back. Do not enter the main residence unless escorted. Fine, do not photograph anything. Wasn't planning to. Do not speak to guests. Jonah looked at him. Are they dangerous? The guard did not smile. Park in the marked contractor area. Jonah drove on. The property became more impressive the closer he got. Old growth pines. Stone walls. Formal gardens dormant under the February cold. An enormous glass conservatory attached to one wing. 2 black SUVs near the entrance. 3 vans carrying logos from security firms and technical contractors. Jonah noticed one. Hartman Secure Systems. He knew the name. Everyone in the lock industry knew it. He looked away. Not his problem. At 7:52, estate manager Lydia Crane met him by the service door. She was perhaps 60. Silver hair. Straight posture. Green wool sweater beneath a navy blazer. You must be Mr. Reed, Jonah. Lydia. She tried the service door. It scraped hard across the stone threshold. House shifts every winter. Everything does. The lock no longer catches. Jonah crouched. Doors dropped. Can you repair it? Yes, without replacing the original hardware. He examined the heavy brass hinges. Probably Miss Vale prefers original fixtures. Cheaper too. Lydia smiled slightly. That is not usually her concern. Jonah opened his toolbox. Lydia watched him. How long? 2 hours if the hinge screws aren't stripped. And if they are? 3. You're unusually confident. Jonah removed the first screw. It is a door. Lydia almost laughed. Then a voice called from inside. Lydia? She turned. A younger man stood in the corridor, expensive suit, perfect hair, phone in hand. Miss, Vale wants the library prepared. It is prepared, Miss. Voss. Jonah heard the name and glanced up. Adrian Voss, Chief Financial Officer of Vale Meridian. He had seen the man on business news. Voss noticed Jonah. Who's this? Door repair. Voss looked at Jonah's clothes. What company? Mine. Voss waited. Jonah returned to the hinge. Lydia said, read property repair. Voss stepped closer. We have sensitive guests today. So security mentioned. Voss stared at him. Jonah continued working. Make sure he stays in the service wing. Lydia's expression cooled. He can hear you. Good. Voss walked away. Jonah looked at Lydia. Friendly place. Mister, Voss is under pressure. Pressure usually tells you who someone already is. Lydia studied him. That's an interesting philosophy for a handyman. Jonah put another screw in the tray. My father talked too much. Lydia left him to work. At 8:26, Jonah discovered the second hinge was cracked. Not badly. Enough he went to his truck for a drill guide. When he came back through the service corridor, Lydia was waiting. Could you use the West Hall instead? Why? Delivery blocking the corridor. She pointed. Through there. Jonah followed. The West Hall was not part of the service wing. It led into the original house. Dark oak. Old paintings. Tall windows. Carpets thick enough to swallow footsteps. Jonah carried his toolbox. He passed a dining room, then an office, then an open pair of walnut doors, and stopped. Not because he wanted to. Because some habits were older than good judgment. The library beyond the doors was enormous. 2 floors of books, rolling ladders, stone fireplace, a ceiling painted with faded constellations. And centered against the north wall stood a safe. Jonah forgot the hallway, forgot the work order, forgot the rent. For one moment he was 16 again, standing beside his father. Watching brass filings fall onto a bench, the safe was nearly 8 feet tall. Black manganese steel, rounded corners, mechanical dial, 4-spoke handle, no keypad, no electronic lock, no visible manufacturer's mark. But Jonah knew. His father had built 3 like it. Only 3. One for a private bank in Montreal, one for an industrial family in Ohio, and one for a man in New Hampshire whose name Jonah's father had refused to mention. Jonah moved 1 step closer. A voice behind him said, Don't. He turned. A security man stood at the end of the hall. Jonah raised 1 hand. Wrong hall. You were told not to enter. Lydia sent me through. The guard approached. Then someone inside the library spoke. Let him look. The guard stopped. Jonah turned. Evelyn Vale stood beside the fireplace. She wore black trousers and a cream blouse. No jacket, no jewelry except a watch. Her dark hair was pinned back. She did not look like someone who needed to prove she was wealthy. The room already did that for her. 4 other people were present. 2 men in suits. A woman with a technical case. An older man wearing a magnifying loupe around his neck. Evelyn looked at Jonah. You're the carpenter. Door repair. Same difference. Not really. One of the men smiled. Evelyn did not. You were staring at my safe. Jonah looked toward it. Yes, why? He could have said curiosity. He could have apologized. Instead, he asked, Who built it? The older man with the loupe laughed. Evelyn looked amused. That's classified as family folklore at this point. Jonah's eyes returned to the safe. It isn't commercial. No, late 80s? 1989, Jonah felt something tighten behind his ribs. His father. Samuel Reed had built his final private commission in 1989. What? Evelyn asked. Jonah shook his head. Nothing, you recognize it. No. Her eyebrows lifted. That was fast. I recognized the construction. The technical woman looked him over. From where? Jonah did not answer. The woman walked closer. That's a four-wheel custom mechanical group with anti-manipulation relockers. If you recognize that at a glance, you're not fixing doors for a living by accident. Jonah glanced at the case beside her. You're Hartman. She looked at her jacket. The company logo was embroidered on it. Good detective work. Evelyn said, Dr. Laura Chen. Hartman, senior forensic engineer. Jonah nodded. Laura crossed her arms. And you? Jonah, last name? Reed, the older man with the loop, looked up suddenly. Jonah saw it. Recognition, small, gone quickly. The man asked, Samuel Reed? The room became still. Jonah looked at him. You knew him? The old man removed the loop. I met him twice. Who are you? Martin Bellamy. Jonah knew that name too. Safe historian, former restoration specialist, published books, consulted museums. His father had called him a walking filing cabinet with bad manners. Bellamy stared. You're Sam's boy. Jonah looked down. Was. Good Lord. Evelyn looked between them. Someone explain. Bellamy pointed at the safe. Samuel Reed may have built this. Evelyn's expression changed. Jonah wished he had kept walking. Laura Chen looked at him again. Your father was Samuel Reed? Yes, the Samuel Reed. Jonah almost smiled. My mother would say there was only one. Bellamy approached him. I thought you went into the trade. I did. Where? Around. That's not an answer. It's enough. Evelyn stepped closer. Did your father build my father's safe? Jonah looked at the black steel door. I don't know. Bellamy said, Sam built custom mechanical vaults for 27 years. Laura nodded slowly. Reed pin architecture. Jonah looked at her. You know it? I've read about it. You can't read much. Exactly, Evelyn's impatience returned. Can you open it? Jonah looked at her. She gestured toward the safe. I've had experts working on this for 11 years. Jonah said nothing. 6 commercial firms. Nothing, 2 overseas specialists. Nothing, a former Treasury technician. Nothing. Bellamy smiled. He's thinking. Evelyn looked at Jonah's toolbox. You're here to fix a door. Yes, and you happen to walk past a safe your father may have built. Looks that way. Can you open it? Jonah looked at the dial, then at the hinges, then at the brass plate near the base. He took one step. Security moved. Evelyn raised a hand. Jonah crouched. The brass plate contained no company name, just an 8-point star. His father used that mark on private work. Jonah stood. His mouth had gone dry. Yeah, Evelyn froze. Laura Chen laughed. Not mockingly, in disbelief. Yeah, Jonah looked at her. Maybe, Evelyn said. You just said yes. I said I can probably work out how. What does probably mean? It means it's locked. Bellamy covered a smile. Evelyn did not. Do you know what is inside? No. Do you know the combination? No, then how? Jonah picked up his toolbox. Same way anyone else would. Laura said, no one else did. Jonah started toward the hallway. Evelyn's voice followed. I'll pay you. He stopped. Not interested. You don't know the amount. I have a door to fix. Bellamy laughed openly now. Evelyn's face hardened. $2 million. Jonah looked back. What? That is the standing reward. The room went silent. Evelyn walked toward the desk. She picked up a paper. $2 million to any person or firm that opens the safe without destroying the contents. Jonah stared. For opening one safe. Yes, why? That's not part of the offer. Then no. Laura said, You're turning down $2 million? I'm turning down a job with missing information. Evelyn looked at him as if he were malfunctioning. What information do you require? Why can't you drill it? Bellamy looked pleased. Evelyn answered, My father's instructions prohibit destructive entry. Why? He left a letter, saying that anything inside would be void if the safe were forcibly opened. Jonah frowned. Void how? I don't know, so you don't know what's inside. No, and $2 million is worth paying to find out. Yes, why now? Evelyn hesitated. Jonah noticed. Friday, he said. What about Friday? She looked irritated. Nothing, then hire someone else. He turned. Friday is the annual trust review. Jonah stopped. Evelyn continued. My father established a controlling trust before he died. And? The trustees meet Friday. Still not my business. It becomes my business if the safe contains the codicil he referenced in his final letter. Jonah turned fully. What codicil? The document that determines who controls 31% of Vale Meridian voting shares. There it was. $2 million suddenly sounded small. Jonah glanced at the people in the room. Who else wants it open? Evelyn's jaw tightened. Everyone. Bellamy leaned against the desk. Now you understand the atmosphere. Jonah understood enough. Family money. Corporate control. A dead father who trusted steel more than relatives. He wanted no part of it. Then his phone buzzed. A text. Tessa's school. Reminder, Boston trip balance due today at 3 p.m. $380. Jonah stared at it. $2 million. $380. His daughter pretending she did not care. The electric bill. Rent. A truck that needed brakes. He hated money most when it made decisions look moral. Evelyn said, Mr. Reed? Jonah put the phone away. If I look at it, that doesn't mean I'm taking the job. Fine, and I don't touch anything until I see your father's letter. Why? Because whoever built that safe might have followed exact instructions. Bellamy nodded. Sam certainly would have. Evelyn considered him. Then opened a desk drawer. She removed a clear archival sleeve. Inside was a handwritten page. Jonah Reed. Evelyn, if you are reading this, I have finally done one thing on schedule. The safe in the library contains what I could not trust myself to give you while I was alive. Do not cut it. Do not drill it. Do not let anyone destroy the lock. If the door is opened by force, burn what you find without reading it. A person who understands why the lock was made will understand how it should be opened. You will know that person because he will ask the right question before touching the dial. Dad Jonah read the final sentence twice. He handed the letter back. Evelyn watched him. What is the right question? Jonah looked at the safe. Then at her. Did your father ever lose someone named Anna? Everything in Evelyn Vale disappeared from her face. The arrogance, the impatience, the control. Gone, Bellamy slowly straightened. Laura Chen looked between them. Evelyn whispered, How do you know that name? Jonah did not answer. He was looking at the safe. Around the dial were 12 tiny engraved marks, almost decorative. One of them was a star. Another was a rose. Another was a small wave. His father used memory indexing on personal commissions, not combinations. Stories. The owner gave him a sequence of meaningful facts. Samuel converted them into mechanical movement. Impossible to guess. Possible to recover if you understood the indexing logic. Jonah remembered watching him create one. His father had said, a safe should not remember numbers. People don't love numbers. People remember people. Jonah looked at Evelyn. Who was Anna? She stood very still. My mother. Nobody spoke. Jonah nodded. When did she die? Evelyn's eyes hardened again. Why? Because your father probably used her. Used her? To build the sequence. Bellamy whispered, memory indexing. Jonah glanced at him. Bellamy's eyes widened. I thought that was a rumor. It wasn't. Laura stepped closer. Explain. Jonah set his toolbox down. My father sometimes built locks around information the owner could remember without writing down. A biometric concept? Laura asked. No, mechanical how? Jonah pointed to the marks. These aren't decoration. Laura leaned close. I've photographed those for years. You were looking at symbols. What should I have been looking at? Relationships. Jonah crouched. He traced the air near one engraving but did not touch. Rose, then another. Wave, then star. Maybe birthday. Place, death, anniversary, could be anything. Evelyn said, So you don't know? No. But you said you could open it. I said probably. $2 million for probably. Jonah looked at her. You can keep your money. Her lips tightened. He continued, I need information. What? Your mother. Evelyn glanced toward Adrian Voss, who had just entered the library. He had apparently been listening. Absolutely not, Voss said. Jonah looked at him. Voss walked in. Ms. Vale, we have counsel arriving in 20 minutes. This man has no security clearance, no insurance applicable to this work, and no documented credentials. Bellamy said, his father built the safe. Voss barely looked at him. Allegedly, Evelyn said, Adrian, he is a handyman. Jonah picked up his toolbox. Then your problem solved. Evelyn turned. Wait, Voss looked at her. Evelyn, she ignored him. Jonah, he stopped. Ask, he looked at her. Whatever you need. Jonah lowered the toolbox again. Your mother's full name. Anna Louise Vale. Maiden name? Mercer. Jonah's eyes flickered. Birthday? August 17th, 1948. Where did they meet? Evelyn frowned. Why? Answer, Voss scoffed. Evelyn's eyes went cold. Nobody spoke to Evelyn Vale that way. Jonah either did not know or did not care. She answered. Bar Harbor. Year? 1967 wedding? June 12th, 1970 children? 1. You, yes, your birthday? March 9th, 1980. Jonah's eyes returned to the safe. He did not move. For 10 seconds. 20. Then he pulled an old wooden folding ruler from his toolbox. Laura stared. You're not using a stethoscope? No. Amplifier? No. Contact microphone? No. Jonah unfolded the ruler. Measured the diameter of the dial. Then the distance between the dial and 3 engraved marks. Bellamy began smiling. Voss folded his arms. This is theater. Jonah said nothing. He closed the ruler. Then sat cross-legged on the library floor. Evelyn looked down. What are you doing? Thinking. For how long? Jonah looked up. Do you want it fast or open? Bellamy laughed. Evelyn gave him a look. Bellamy stopped. Jonah studied the engravings. Rose, wave, star, pine, bird, anchor, moon, the symbols corresponded to something. He needed the indexing key. His father always hid one plain clue. Something obvious once known. Jonah looked across the safe body. No manufacturer mark. No serial. Only the 8-point star at the base. Star 8 points. August, Anna's birth month. He looked at the dial. There were 100 numbers. But his father disliked obvious numerals. Jonah reached for the dial. Laura spoke. Wait. He stopped. What? We've already triggered the primary relocker twice over the years. Jonah's face changed. How? Manipulation attempts. Did anyone rotate past resistance after trigger? Laura hesitated. Yes. How far? I'd need the logs. Jonah slowly removed his hand. You should have said that first. Evelyn frowned. Why? Because your father's original opening sequence may not work anymore. Silence. Voss said, there. We're finished. Jonah looked at Laura. Records. She opened her laptop. I have everything. First trigger. March 2018. Cause? Attempted auto-dial mapping. Second? November 2023. High torque manipulation. Jonah closed his eyes. His father's mechanism used gravity relockers. If rotated after activation, one wheel could shift relative to the gate. That meant memory sequence alone was insufficient. But his father had designed recovery methods. Always, Samuel Reed hated locks that could permanently defeat their owners. Jonah asked Bellamy, did my father ever tell you about lighthouse recovery? Bellamy froze. No, think. Bellamy's eyebrows drew together. Sam mentioned a keeper. What exactly? He said every good lock needs a lighthouse keeper. Jonah nodded. There, he stood. Your father had something made with the safe. Evelyn said, what? Small, brass maybe, could look useless. How could you know? Because my father never trusted service manuals. Bellamy smiled. He trusted objects. Jonah nodded. Something the owner would keep. Evelyn thought. I don't know. Your father's desk? Everything has been catalogued. Jewelry? No, keys? Evelyn looked toward a cabinet. Lydia, who had appeared at the doorway, spoke quietly. There is the compass. Everyone turned. Evelyn frowned. What compass? Your father's brass desk compass. That's decoration. It was always beside his reading chair. Where is it? Lydia looked at Voss. Archive storage. Voss said, we cannot start tearing through the estate because a handyman remembers a story. Jonah picked up his toolbox. Then don't. Evelyn's patience snapped. Adrian, get the compass. Voss stared at her. Now? He left. Evelyn looked at Jonah. What happens if you're wrong? I fix your door. That almost made her smile. You're very calm for someone potentially walking away from $2 million. Jonah checked his phone. 8:51. He still had the service door apart. I came here expecting 240. Evelyn stared. Bellamy said Sam was exactly like this. Jonah's expression closed. I'm not my father. Bellamy's smile faded. No, Jonah walked toward the safe again. Evelyn noticed the shift. You didn't get along? Jonah said nothing. That's personal. Fine, he looked at her. You're asking me questions about my dead father while refusing questions about yours. That landed. Evelyn looked toward Augustus Vale's portrait above the fireplace. We got along when I did what he expected. Jonah waited. He wanted me to run the company. You do. He wanted me to run it his way. Which was? Slowly, Jonah looked at the enormous house. That doesn't seem to have hurt him. Evelyn's mouth tightened. He believed every decision should take a week. And you? I believe opportunities disappear while committees discuss them. Maybe you disagree. I repair doors. She gave him a long look. You're irritating. I hear that. From who? My daughter. That softened something. You have a child? 10, mother? Jonah looked back at the safe. Evelyn understood. I'm sorry. He nodded once. How long? 3 years. Evelyn did not know what to say. People around her usually filled silence. Jonah did not. So they stood there. Then Voss returned carrying a clear evidence box. Inside sat a brass marine compass. Old, heavy, green corrosion around the hinge. Jonah's pulse increased. He opened the box. Gloves? Laura asked. Yes, she handed him a pair. Jonah lifted the compass. The lid bore the same 8-point star. He turned it over. Around the base were tiny letters. N-A-E-S, not compass points. Names? Jonah pressed the hinge. Nothing pressed again. A faint click. Bellamy stepped forward. Did you hear that? Jonah rotated the outer bezel. It moved. Inside the compass, the needle remained fixed. The bezel contained numbers. Anna's birthday. Laura whispered, Oh my God. Jonah looked at Evelyn. Your father kept the first index here. She stared. Can you open it now? Closer, Voss said. You have 45 minutes before council arrives. Evelyn turned on him. Why do you keep mentioning time? Because Friday matters. It is Tuesday. We have governance work. Jonah looked at Voss. Something about the man's urgency bothered him. Not because urgency was suspicious. Because it was directional. Open it. But only through approved experts. Control who opens it. Control when. Control what happens afterward. Jonah looked back at the compass. His father had taught him another rule. The person most interested in the lock is not always the person interested in what's inside. At 9:12, Jonah touched the dial. The library became silent. No tools. No headset. No computer. He turned left. Slowly stopped at 8. Right, 17, left, 48. Nothing. Voss exhaled loudly. Jonah ignored him. He reset. 8, 17, 19, 48. Still nothing. Laura watched his fingertips. What are you feeling? Nothing? That's bad? No, what are you listening for? Nothing. She frowned. Then what are you doing? Teaching the wheels where home is. Bellamy whispered. Beautiful. Jonah glanced at him. Don't make it weird. Bellamy laughed. Evelyn rubbed her forehead. Jonah reset again, then changed direction. He did not watch the numbers after the first rotation. His fingers moved. Pause, reverse, the dial stopped. Jonah's face changed. Barely, Laura saw it. What? First wheel. You found the gate? No. Then what? Jonah removed his hand. Your father changed the index. Evelyn stared. How do you know? The wheel is stopping half a position early. Bellamy came closer. Relocker shift. Jonah nodded. So the safe was damaged. Not damaged. Locked against manipulation. Can you reset it? Maybe, Voss laughed. Again, Jonah looked at him. Again what? Maybe, Jonah shrugged. Good word. $2 million should buy certainty. Jonah stood. No, Voss blinked. It buys work, not certainty. Evelyn watched him. Jonah continued. Anyone selling certainty with a mechanical system this old is lying. Laura nodded reluctantly. He's right. Voss looked at her. Whose side are you on? Laura's expression cooled. The safes. Jonah almost smiled. At 9:28, the entire tone changed. An attorney named Rachel Sloan arrived with 2 associates. She represented the Vale Family Trust. The moment she saw Jonah, she objected. No, Evelyn did not look up. Good morning to you too. Who is this, Jonah Reed? Credentials? Door repair. Sloan stared. Bellamy covered his mouth. Evelyn added, his father built the safe. Sloan looked at Jonah again. Proof? Jonah pointed at the star mark. Family mark. Bellamy said, I can substantiate Samuel Reed used it. Laura added, construction details are consistent with Reed designs. Sloan set down her briefcase. Does Mr. Reed have professional liability coverage for a $2 million engagement? Jonah said, no. Security bond? No. Forensic certification? No. Current locksmith license? New Hampshire doesn't require one for this work. Sloan looked at Evelyn. This is reckless. Jonah picked up his toolbox. Agreed, Evelyn pointed at him. Stay, Sloan said. Friday's vote could transfer effective control of the company depending on the content of that safe. Jonah stopped. Evelyn looked sharply at her. You told me the trustees simply review. They do. Transfer to who? Sloan hesitated. Voss stepped in. Evelyn, this isn't necessary. Jonah looked between them. There it was again. A missing piece. Evelyn stood. Who? Sloan sighed. Your father's trust establishes a contingency. What contingency? If a sealed testamentary instrument exists and is authenticated before the annual meeting, voting control follows that instrument. And if it doesn't, the default allocation becomes permanent Friday. To me. Sloan did not answer. Evelyn's eyes narrowed. Rachel, not entirely. The room became silent. Evelyn looked at Voss. He looked away. What does entirely mean? Sloan opened her briefcase. 31% sits in trust. Under default allocation, 17% passes into your direct voting control. And the rest? 14% transfers to the Meridian Stewardship Foundation. Evelyn frowned. Which board controls that? Sloan hesitated. Voss answered. Independent directors. Evelyn turned toward him. Who chairs it? Nobody answered. Jonah already knew. Evelyn said quietly, Adrian. Voss's jaw tightened. Yes, Evelyn stared. You chair the foundation that receives 14% of my father's voting shares if this safe remains closed. Voss lifted his hands. I did not write the trust. No, the appointment predates your father's death. You've known this. Of course I knew. For how long? 11 years. And you never thought to mention that your voting influence triples Friday if this safe stays shut? My duties are disclosed. Buried where? Annual filings. Evelyn laughed. No humor. She turned toward Sloan. Did my father know Adrian would chair it? Yes, Evelyn stared at the safe. Now the room made sense. The reward, the experts, the years, the deadline. Her father had created a contest between certainty and suspicion. Jonah looked at Voss. How many attempts did you authorize? Voss glared. This does not concern you. 2 relocker triggers. Evelyn turned. Jonah continued. Laura said 2018 and 2023. Voss said nothing. Who authorized those attempts? Laura looked at her records. 2018 request came through estate administration. Whose approval? She scrolled. Adrian Voss. Evelyn's face hardened. 2023? Laura scrolled again. She stopped. Voss said, "This is irrelevant." Laura looked at Evelyn. Adrian, the room went still. Evelyn stepped toward Voss. "You authorized the 2 attempts that shifted the lock. They were legitimate specialists. Without telling me the relocker could make future opening harder?" "We did not know." Jonah asked, "Did the technicians know?" Laura looked at the report. The 2023 firm warned of possible permanent relock. Voss turned on her. That was post-attempt speculation. Jonah watched Evelyn. She was angry, but underneath it was something more dangerous. Embarrassment. Powerful people often reacted badly when they discovered they had been managed. Jonah had seen it in factories, banks, estate disputes. People would rather be cheated than feel foolish. Evelyn walked to the windows. For several seconds she looked out toward the ocean. Then she said, "Everyone out." Sloane spoke. "Evelyn, not Jonah." Voss's face tightened. "You're trusting him?" "No," she turned. "I'm eliminating everyone I already know I shouldn't." Voss left first. Sloane followed reluctantly. Laura packed her laptop. Bellamy moved toward the door. Evelyn said, "Martin can stay." Bellamy looked delighted. Laura stopped. "Me?" Evelyn looked at Jonah. He answered. "She stays." Laura nodded. Lydia closed the library doors. 4 people remained. Evelyn, Jonah, Bellamy, Laura, the safe. At 9:44, Evelyn poured coffee. She did not offer anyone a cup until Lydia quietly cleared her throat. Then she did. Jonah declined. His hands needed to stay steady. Evelyn sat. "What do you need? Truth about?" "Your father." She looked tired. "Specific. Why would he hide the company control instead of updating the trust directly?" "I don't know." "You do." Her eyes flashed. "No." Jonah said nothing. Evelyn leaned back. "You really think silence is a weapon?" "No. What is it? Space for?" "People to answer." Bellamy looked down to hide another smile. Evelyn noticed. "You're enjoying him." "Immensely don't," Bellamy nodded solemnly. Evelyn looked at Jonah. "My father and I fought. About the company. Everything became about the company." "Why?" "Because he didn't believe I understood what he built." "You did?" "I multiplied it 20 times. Not what I asked." Her eyes narrowed. Jonah pointed toward the safe. "He made that after your mother died." "Yes, he used her birthday as the first index." "Apparently, so this wasn't originally about the company." Evelyn's expression shifted. Jonah continued. "What happened after she died?" Evelyn looked at the portrait. "He disappeared into work." "You?" "I was 9. "Who raised you?" "Mostly Lydia." Jonah glanced toward the door. That explained the estate manager. Evelyn continued. "My father loved me." She said it as if defending a man on trial. "He simply didn't know what to do with a child." Jonah nodded. "A lot of fathers don't." "Do you?" "No." That surprised her. "You seem certain." "I make number pancakes badly." Bellamy frowned. "What?" "Nothing." Evelyn almost smiled. Jonah continued. "When did he build the safe?" "Finished in 1990. "Not 1989? "The room was renovated in 1990. Jonah looked at Bellamy. Bellamy nodded slowly. "Possible," Jonah thought. "Anna died when?" he asked. "Your mother." Evelyn knew the question now. November 6, 1989, Jonah's pulse moved. Age? 41. Cause? Car accident. Where? Route 1 near York. What time? Evelyn stared. "I don't know. Someone does." She stood abruptly. "Why would time matter?" "Maybe it doesn't." "Then stop digging into my mother's death." Jonah held her gaze. "Your father built a memory lock." Evelyn said nothing. "You want me to recover his memory." Silence. "That means we go where it goes." Her anger weakened. Bellamy spoke softly. "Augustus commissioned Sam in December 1989. Evelyn looked at him. "How do you know?" "I found a mention in Sam's workshop ledger years ago." Jonah turned. You saw Dad's ledger? A collector owned several pages. Jonah's jaw tightened. Why? Your father's shop contents were auctioned. Jonah looked away. He knew. He had not attended. Samuel died 18 months after Jonah stopped speaking to him. Heart attack. Alone in the workshop. Jonah had been 32. Too proud to call. His father's tools were sold while Jonah was out west. He told himself he did not care, then spent years carrying one old brass key his wife had given him. Families had strange ways of preserving what they claimed to release. Bellamy said, "I'm sorry." Jonah nodded. "Do you remember the ledger notation?" he asked. Bellamy thought. Vale Commission. Private morning box. Jonah looked at Evelyn. Not corporate. She sat again. Private morning box. The safe might have been built first to hold Anna's belongings. The company documents came later. Jonah returned to the dial. This time he did not touch it. He studied the engravings. Rose, wave, star, pine, bird, anchor, moon. He looked at the ceiling. Painted constellations. One star stood brighter than the others above the safe. No, not random. Evelyn followed his eyes. What? Jonah moved beneath it. The ceiling showed Ursa Minor, Polaris, lighthouse, keeper, he whispered. Dad, Bellamy heard. What? Jonah pointed upward. My father didn't hide the recovery key in the compass. Evelyn frowned. Then what was it? First sequence. Where is the recovery key? Jonah looked at the room. A lighthouse keeper doesn't carry the light. He watches it. Jonah nodded. He turned toward Augustus Vale's portrait. The portrait faced the safe. Behind the painted figure was a coastal landscape. A lighthouse. Bellamy stepped closer. No. Jonah walked to the painting. Laura said, "You think there's something in the frame?" "Maybe." Evelyn almost laughed. That word again. Jonah looked at her. "You want certainty, open it yourself." She raised both hands. Proceed. They removed the portrait carefully. Behind it was ordinary stone. Nothing. Voss would have enjoyed that. Jonah studied the frame. On the rear, beneath old paper backing, sat a small brass disc, barely larger than a quarter. 8-point star. Bellamy whispered, "There you are." Jonah removed it. The disc had 4 tiny notches, not a key, a gauge. He walked to the safe, held it beside the dial spindle. Perfect fit around the central shaft. Laura's eyes widened. It measures eccentricity. Jonah nodded. If the relocker shifted the wheel pack, the dial shaft will sit slightly off reference. Microns? More. Laura pulled out a digital caliper. Jonah shook his head. Don't. Why? My father made the tool. You trust a 35-year-old brass disc over calibrated equipment? For this? Yes, she laughed. I think I like you. Jonah ignored her. He seated the disc. One notch did not align, then another. He rotated the dial gently. The third notch aligned near a number, 23. He reset. Measured again, 61. Third, 4, fourth, 38. He wrote the values on a piece of scrap paper. Bellamy stared. Recovery offset. Jonah nodded. 4 wheels. Laura whispered, "You've rebuilt the shifted gates." Maybe Evelyn did not complain about the word this time. Jonah stood in front of the safe. The library felt warmer now. Sunlight had crossed the rug. His work order sat forgotten near the door. He checked his phone. 10:17. A missed call from Tessa's school. His stomach dropped. He called immediately. The teacher answered. "Mr. Reed? Sorry, working. Is Tessa okay?" "She's fine," Jonah exhaled. "We just need the trip payment by 3. I know." Tessa asked whether she could withdraw her form. Jonah closed his eyes. "Don't let her." "Mr. Reed, I'll have it." A pause. "All right." He hung up. Evelyn had heard. "How much?" Jonah looked at her. "What?" "The school payment." "Not your business. You are standing in my library working for a $2 million reward. I haven't agreed to your reward." "Why?" Jonah stared. Because money from wealthy people usually had more hooks than locks. Because he had watched his father spend his life building things for men whose names went on buildings while Samuel's own shop vanished into an auction. Because Claire had once accused Jonah of using pride as an excuse to stay poor. Because accepting $2 million for 40 minutes of work felt obscene when he had spent nights repairing furnaces for widows at cost. He said none of that. Instead, I don't know if I can open it. Evelyn walked to the desk. She wrote something, tore the page from a checkbook, held it out. Jonah did not take it. 5,000. For what? Your time so far. No, take it. No, you need $380. That doesn't make you my bank. It makes me someone buying professional services. I haven't provided $5,000 of anything. Evelyn's patience returned. How would you know? It's my work. You are impossible. Been told. She put the check down, opened the safe. Jonah turned back toward it. He slipped the brass gauge into his pocket, then placed both hands loosely at his sides. He closed his eyes. Samuel Reed's voice lived in places Jonah hated admitting. Don't chase the click. A click is only metal moving. Chase the reason. Jonah opened his eyes. Anna, August 17. Marriage, June 12. Death, November 6. Evelyn, March 9. 4 wheels, 4 relationships. But the relocker offsets changed everything. The sequence might not use dates directly. His father encoded differences. He looked at the ceiling star again. Polaris, north, the compass. North was Anna. A on base. E, S, N, Anna, Evelyn, Samuel. No, Samuel Reed did not belong in Augustus's family. What was S? Jonah looked at Evelyn. Did your father call this estate something? Vale House. Before that. She thought. Seafair. Jonah looked toward the compass. A, E, S, N, Anna, Evelyn, Seafair. North? No, he asked. Your father's middle name. Nathaniel, A-E-S-N, Anna, Evelyn, Seafair, Nathaniel, 4 anchors. 4 wheels. Jonah's pulse increased. He turned the dial. Slow, no tools, no talking. Left, stopped, right, stopped, left, stopped, right. He tried the handle. Nothing. Evelyn exhaled. Jonah reset. Again, different offsets. Nothing third time. Nothing. Laura whispered, do you want audio? Jonah raised one finger. Silence, fourth the dial past 61. Jonah felt resistance. Not a click. Pressure, he stopped. Backed up. Returned their gate edge. 1 wheel. His father's mechanism had not changed completely. Jonah adjusted. 2nd wheel. 3rd, 4th, the room disappeared. He forgot Evelyn. Bellamy, Laura, he forgot the money. He remembered the workshop, his father sitting on a stool. Jonah 17 and angry about everything. Samuel saying, you cannot bully precision. Jonah replying, you can't lecture metal into moving either. His father laughing, a rare sound. You're right, so listen. Jonah listened. At 10:31, the first internal fence aligned. He knew because the dial lost resistance. Laura saw his expression. Something? Jonah did not answer. He turned. Stopped, returned. The first relocker moved. Soft, deep inside. Bellamy inhaled. Evelyn stepped closer. Jonah raised his hand without looking. She stopped. He continued. 2nd relocker. Nothing. Reset partial. 23. Offset 4. 38. The brass gauge. He reconstructed the shifted wheel. Then, clunk, Laura's mouth opened. Bellamy whispered, good God. Jonah moved to the handle. Evelyn said, wait. He stopped. What? Her face had gone pale. 11 years. $2 million. Her father. Her mother. The company. Whatever waited inside. She looked suddenly less like a billionaire than a daughter outside a hospital room. What if I don't want to know? Jonah looked at her. Then leave it closed. After all this? Safe doesn't care. Evelyn looked at the handle. If my father wanted me to have it, why make it this difficult? Jonah glanced toward the ceiling. My father used to say difficult isn't the same as hidden. What does that mean? Maybe he wanted the right person opening it. Who? Jonah looked at her. Someone willing to remember. Evelyn swallowed. Open it. Jonah turned the handle. It moved 2 inches. Stopped. Laura cursed softly. Evelyn stared. What happened? Jonah did not move. Secondary lock. Voss's voice came from behind the library doors. I knew it. Everyone turned. He stood with Rachel Sloane and two security guards. Evelyn's face hardened. I told you to stay out. Sloane stepped forward. We have a governance issue. Jonah removed his hand from the safe. Voss saw the handle position. You've triggered something. No, then why isn't it open? Secondary lock. Voss smiled. So we're back where we started. Jonah looked at him. No, looks closed. It's awake. Bellamy smiled broadly. Voss ignored him. Sloane handed Evelyn a folder. The trustees requested confirmation that no destructive access is underway. Evelyn laughed. Adrian called them. Voss said nothing. You called them. I notified them. Of what? Material risk. Jonah watched. This was no longer about the safe. It was about control of the room. Voss needed the process stopped. Why? If the safe remained closed until Friday, his foundation gained 14%. That was motive. But Jonah had learned not to mistake motive for proof. Evelyn signed the acknowledgement. Handed it back. Done. Sloane remained. Evelyn stared. What? The trustees also require an independent observer during any opening. Laura is here. She's retained by the estate. Martin? Family acquaintance. Evelyn looked at Jonah. He shrugged. Not my fight. Sloane said, I will observe. Evelyn pointed toward a chair. Then sit quietly. Sloane sat. Voss did not. Evelyn looked at him. Out, I should remain. No. As CFO out, Voss stared at Jonah. Then left. Jonah turned back. Secondary lock. His father usually used one of two. Time delay or personal confirmation. No electronics. So mechanical. He checked the handle position. 2 inches meant bolts had partly withdrawn. Something was holding the lower bar. He crouched. Looked at the 8-point star near the base. He pressed it. Nothing. Rotated nothing, then remembered the brass key on his truck ring. No. Impossible. Claire's key came from her grandfather. Her family was from Maine. Samuel Reed had built commissioned locks throughout New England. Coincidence? He pushed the thought away. Then saw the keyway. Not on the front. Hidden under the star plate. Small, decorative, old-fashioned warded profile. Jonah froze. Evelyn noticed. What? He stood slowly. Need something from my truck. Sloane said, no object may be introduced without inspection. Jonah looked at her. It's a key. Evelyn frowned. You have a key to my father's safe? No. Then what? Jonah was already walking. I don't know. He crossed the estate quickly. His truck sat in the service court. He opened the door, took the key ring. The brass key hung beside his house key. 8-point star. Jonah stared. For years he had assumed Claire's grandfather bought it as a souvenir. She had told him it opened nothing anymore. He called her mother. No answer. He called again. Voicemail. Jonah looked at the time. 10:46. He ran back inside. Security inspected the key. Sloane photographed it. Bellamy took one look and sat down. Where did you get that? My wife. Your wife? Her grandfather. What was his name? Henry Mercer. Bellamy's eyes widened. Jonah saw it. What? Bellamy stood. Henry Mercer worked for Augustus Vale. Evelyn stepped forward. What? Plant superintendent. Jonah stared. Claire never talked much about her grandfather's work. He had died before Jonah met her. Bellamy continued. Portsmouth Machine Facility. Early Vale Industries. Evelyn looked at the key. My father gave this to him? Maybe. Jonah hated the word now, too. He knelt. Exposed the hidden keyway. Inserted the brass key. Perfect fit. Nobody breathed. Jonah turned. Nothing. He turned farther. A spring resisted. Then a small mechanical bell chimed inside the safe. Once Evelyn covered her mouth. Not because it was loud, because she recognized it. My father had that bell in his workshop. Jonah looked at her. What? Every time an apprentice finished a first piece correctly, he rang a bell. Bellamy smiled. Jonah turned the handle again. This time it moved, all the way. The bolts withdrew. Heavy, slow, 11 years of silence, ending in 4 metallic movements. Jonah placed one hand on the edge of the door. Evelyn whispered, wait. He stopped. Again, she looked at Sloane. Then Laura. Then Bellamy. Then Jonah. Everyone except Jonah out. Sloane stood. Absolutely not. This is my father's private safe. It may contain trust property. Then stand outside the door. The chain of custody. Jonah stepped away. She's right. Sloane looked surprised. If documents matter legally, you need witnesses. Evelyn looked at him. I don't want them seeing personal things. Then let counsel stand where she can verify nothing is removed before inventory. Sloane nodded. Evelyn hated it, but agreed. Bellamy and Laura stepped outside. Sloane remained 10 feet back. Jonah looked at Evelyn. Ready? No, he waited. She took one breath, then another. Open it. At 10:51, Jonah Reed pulled. The safe door opened 3 inches. Cold air escaped. Dust, old paper, cedar. He pulled farther. 6 inches, a foot. Then all the way. Inside were 4 shelves. No piles of gold, no diamonds, no cash. The top shelf held a wooden box. The second held files. The third held 3 leather-bound journals. The bottom held a canvas tool bag. Evelyn stared. That's it? Jonah understood the disappointment. $2 million. 11 years. Global company control. And it looked like an attic. Then she saw the wooden box. Her knees weakened. Jonah caught her elbow. She pulled away immediately. Not angry. Embarrassed, the box had Anna painted across the lid. Evelyn whispered, Mom. Sloane looked down, giving her privacy. Evelyn touched the box, did not open it. Not yet. Jonah looked toward the canvas tool bag. Something was written on it. Sam Reed. His chest tightened. He stepped closer. His father's name. Inside Augustus Vale's safe. Evelyn saw. That's yours. No. It has your father's name. Doesn't mean it's mine. She lifted the bag carefully. Handed it to him. Jonah did not take it. Inventory first. Sloane glanced up. Correct. Evelyn set it down. Then removed the first file. Across the cover, Vale Meridian Succession, private. Sloane stepped closer. Evelyn opened it. The first document was a notarized codicil dated 6 months before Augustus died. She read silently. Her expression changed. What? Sloane asked. Evelyn handed her the pages. Sloane read. Slowly, then again. This supersedes the default allocation. Evelyn's voice was tight. To who? Sloane looked at her. Not you. Silence. Evelyn did not move. Jonah watched her absorb it. Sloane continued. The 31% remains in trust. For how long? Until the conditions here are satisfied. What condition? Sloane read. 17% voting authority remains with Evelyn Vale while she serves as chief executive. Evelyn nodded. And 14? Sloane stopped. Rachel, 14 transfers into employee stewardship. Evelyn stared. What? Voting trust representing eligible Vale Meridian employees with 10 or more years of service. Sloane read further. Trustees elected internally. Evelyn sat. Her father had not given her control. He had not given Voss control. He had given workers a blocking stake. 14%. Enough to stop certain mergers, executive compensation changes, plant closures, major asset sales. Evelyn laughed once, a stunned sound, of course. Jonah watched her. What? My father hated boards. Sloane continued reading. There is more. Evelyn looked at her. A restriction. What restriction? If the company attempts to sell the original Portsmouth manufacturing property within 20 years of Augustus Vale's death, the employee trust receives an additional 6% from your voting position. Evelyn went pale. Jonah felt the room tighten. Portsmouth property. He looked at Sloane. When was his father dead? 11 years. Evelyn stood. No. Sloane looked up. Evelyn repeated. No, Jonah knew that tone. Something had connected. What? He asked. Evelyn looked at him. We signed a preliminary sale agreement. For the Portsmouth plant? Last month. Sloane's face changed. You did what? Vale Meridian hasn't used it fully in years. Who negotiated it? Evelyn was already moving toward the doors, then stopped. She did not need to answer. Jonah said it. Voss, Evelyn looked at him. Sloane closed the file. If the sale closes before the 20th anniversary, this codicil triggers. And I lose 6%. Transferred to employees. Who knew? Sloane shook her head. I did not. Who had access to the original trust references? Your father. Original counsel. Possibly executive administration. Adrian? Possibly, Jonah said. Maybe he didn't know what the codicil said. Evelyn looked at him. You're defending him again? No, then stop. I'm separating what we know from what makes us angry. She stared. That was exactly what she did not want, which was why she needed it. Sloane continued inventory. Second file. Portsmouth facility. Old deeds. Environmental records. Employee pension documentation. Third, North Atlantic defense contracts. Fourth, personal. Evelyn opened personal. Inside was an envelope. Evelyn, her hands began shaking. She looked at Jonah. He looked away. Not his letter. She opened it. Read. For a long time nobody spoke. Then she sat. The letter fell into her lap. Jonah could see tears but pretended not to. Sloane stepped farther back. Evelyn whispered, he apologized. Jonah said nothing. He never apologized. Still nothing. He wrote this before he died. Jonah looked at the safe. People get braver when nobody can interrupt them. She laughed through tears. That's terrible. Yeah. Evelyn wiped her face. He said he confused preparing me with controlling me. Jonah looked down. That sentence sounded like Samuel Reed, too. Different fathers. Same generation. Same talent for building difficult things and harder daughters and sons. Evelyn folded the letter. She looked at the canvas bag. Now yours. Jonah shook his head. Inventory. Sloane checked. Canvas tool bag marked Samuel Reed. No indication of trust ownership. Evelyn placed it in Jonah's hands. This time he accepted. The bag was heavy. He opened the clasp. Inside lay a dial puller, hand files, brass shims, a small hammer, a notebook, and a sealed envelope. Jonah, his breathing stopped. Evelyn saw. Sloane looked away. Jonah touched the envelope. His father's handwriting. Not similar, not possibly. The J curved too low. Samuel always wrote the N like an H. Jonah sat. How? Bellamy, still outside, heard enough to answer. Augustus and Sam were friends. Jonah looked toward him. Bellamy remained at the threshold, not close socially, workshop friends. Jonah stared. Bellamy continued. Your father helped Augustus design equipment before Vale Industries could afford proper vendors. Augustus helped finance Sam's first shop. Jonah looked at the envelope. Why was this here? Bellamy shook his head. Open it. Jonah did. The letter was only one page. Boy, if this reaches you, somebody finally opened Gus's ridiculous box. He wanted 4 locks. I told him 3. He won because he paid. You were right about prototype 4. I should have said it before you left. I let loyalty to men become disloyalty to truth. Don't make that mistake because you're angry with me. The brass key belongs to Henry Mercer. Gus gave it to him because Henry was the only man at Vale who told him no without enjoying it. If that key ever finds you, maybe the world is smaller than either of us deserved. There are tools in this bag that are yours if you still want them. If you don't, give them to someone who listens before cutting. Dad. Jonah stopped reading. His vision blurred. He read the final line again. Not because it was poetic. His father was not poetic. Because it sounded exactly like him. Someone who listens before cutting. Jonah covered his mouth. For years he had imagined apologies. Long ones. Perfect ones. His father admitting everything. Admitting Jonah had been right. Admitting pride. Failure, fear, the real apology was 9 lines. Of course it was. Samuel Reed had never wasted material. Evelyn sat beside him, not too close. He knew you'd find it. Jonah shook his head. No, he wrote your name. He hoped. Same thing. No, Jonah folded the letter. Hope's worse. She understood that. At 11:26, everything outside the library began moving quickly. Sloan called the trustees. Independent counsel arrived. Copies of the codicil were made under supervision. The Portsmouth sale was immediately frozen. Employee trust language was verified against records stored with the original law firm. The codicil was authentic, legally executed, never revoked. The safe had not been a sentimental puzzle. It was a governance bomb waiting behind 4 inches of steel. By 12:05, Adrian Voss knew. He entered the study where Evelyn waited. Jonah was there only because his toolbox remained near the door. He intended to leave. Then Voss saw the open safe. His face told Jonah something words could not. Not surprise. Recognition, Voss knew enough. Evelyn saw it too. How long? Voss looked at her. How long what? Don't. He glanced at Sloan. She said nothing. Evelyn held the codicil. How long did you know there was a Portsmouth restriction? Voss's expression tightened. I knew Augustus attached sentimental conditions to old properties. Sentimental, yes. He gave employees 20% blocking power if I sold that property. Voss looked toward the open safe. So that's what was inside. Evelyn's eyes hardened. You didn't know the percentage. No, but you knew there was a restriction. I knew there might be. And you pushed the sale anyway. The Portsmouth facility is inefficient. That's not what I asked. Voss exhaled. We have discussed this for 5 years. You negotiated the buyer. Yes, you selected the valuation firm. Yes, you scheduled closing before Friday. Because the buyer required. You scheduled closing 3 days before the annual trust allocation becomes permanent. Voss said nothing. Evelyn stepped closer. Why? Voss looked at Sloan. This is governance strategy. Sloan's face hardened. Do not involve me. Voss looked back at Evelyn. The employee trust would make the company unmanageable. You didn't know it existed. I suspected. How? Silence. Evelyn held up the codicil. How? Voss rubbed his jaw. Your father talked. To who? People, names, old executives. Names? Voss looked toward the window. Gerald Morrow. Evelyn's face shifted. Her father's former general counsel. Dead 8 years. What did Gerald tell you? That Augustus had hidden something. In the safe. Yes, and? That it involved employee control in the Portsmouth property. Evelyn stared. So for 11 years you benefited from keeping this closed. That's absurd. Your foundation gets 14% Friday if no codicil exists. It's not my foundation. It's independent. You chair it. For governance continuity. Stop saying governance. Her voice cracked across the room. Everyone went quiet. Voss stepped back. Evelyn continued. You knew the safe might contain language taking 14% away from your board. No, you authorized the 2 attempts that triggered its relockers. Legitimate attempts. You pushed the company to sell Portsmouth, because Portsmouth loses money, and you scheduled closing before the trust meeting. Coincidence, Jonah closed his toolbox. Voss turned on him. Stay out of this. Jonah looked at Evelyn. He's right. Voss blinked. Evelyn frowned. Jonah picked up the tool bag. This isn't my fight. Voss laughed bitterly. You open one box and suddenly everyone thinks you're a prophet. Jonah stopped. No, your father built a lock. Congratulations, Jonah looked at him. What's your point? My point is you don't know this company. No, you don't know what it costs to keep 12,000 employees working. No, you don't know the pressure she is under. Jonah glanced at Evelyn. No, Voss stepped closer. Then don't stand there judging decisions you don't understand. Jonah nodded. Fair. Voss seemed thrown again. Jonah continued. But I understand locks. So? A lock doesn't create what's behind it. Voss stared. It only keeps people from seeing it. Jonah lifted his toolbox. Whatever happens next was already there. He left. At 12:18, Jonah returned to the service door. It was still hanging crooked. Lydia found him tightening the hinge. She stared. You're fixing the door? That's the work order. You just opened Mr. Vale's safe. Door still scrapes. Lydia looked at him for several seconds, then laughed. Not a polite laugh. A full one. Jonah smiled. Something funny? You may be the strangest man who's worked on this house. Competitive field? Very. She sat on a bench. Did you find what you needed? Jonah looked at his father's old tool bag. I found something. Lydia nodded. She knew not to ask. Jonah aligned the final hinge. The door swung smoothly, no scrape. He adjusted the original lock. Closed it, opened it, closed again. Done. Lydia looked at her watch. 180 minutes. 2 hinge cracks. Invoice 3 hours. Okay, she waited. Jonah started packing. You're going to charge the normal rate. Yes. After what happened upstairs. The door didn't become harder. Lydia shook her head. Samuel Reed would like you. Jonah stopped. You knew him? Once he looked at her. Here? Many times. Jonah stared. Lydia smiled sadly. You really didn't know. No, your father came every year for a while. For the safe? Sometimes why? Mr. Vale trusted him. Jonah looked toward the house. Did Dad ever ask about me? Lydia's expression softened. Every time. Jonah looked down. He knew where you were generally. Then why didn't he call? I don't know. Jonah nodded. That answer was painful because it was honest. Lydia continued. People imagine old men become wiser. Do they? Mostly they become old. Jonah smiled faintly. That sounds like him. Lydia looked toward the tool bag. He carried regret badly. So did I. Perhaps Jonah closed his toolbox. But you're carrying something else now. At 12:41, Jonah sent his invoice. $240. Door adjustment and lock alignment. He climbed into his truck. His phone showed 12 missed notifications. News traveled fast inside wealthy families. Apparently, it traveled faster among contractors. Bellamy had texted, "Please call ME. RE Sam's archive." Laura Chen had sent, "I need to know if you'd consult on a read mechanism in Connecticut. Serious request." Then another. Also, that was the best safe opening I've ever seen. Jonah smiled. Then Tessa's school reminder appeared. Payment due €3. He checked his bank account. $271. The Vale invoice would not pay for 30 days. Jonah looked at the $5,000 check Evelyn had left on the library table. He had not taken it. He hit his steering wheel lightly. Pride is expensive. Claire had said that. Many times. His phone rang. Evelyn Vale. He almost ignored it, then answered, "Yeah, where are you? Truck, you left. Doors fixed. Come back." "Why?" "Because I haven't paid you." Invoice went to Lydia, not for the door. Jonah looked through the windshield. "No." A pause. "You don't even know what I'm offering." $2 million. "Correct." No, another pause. "Why?" "Because I did not accept the job. You opened the safe." "Yes, the standing reward was public. Doesn't matter. It matters legally." "Then cancel it." Evelyn's voice became very controlled. "Jonah, no, I am trying to give you $2 million, I noticed. Most people make this easier. Call them." She exhaled. "What would you accept? For the safe?" "Yes, hourly rate." Silence, then what? 4 hours. You were in there nearly 3. Round to 4. What is your rate? 120. Evelyn did not speak. Still there? $480. Yes, for opening a safe experts have failed to open for 11 years. Plus research. How much? Call it $750 total. Evelyn laughed. Actually laughed. Jonah waited. She continued laughing. Done? No. Another laugh. Then come back inside. I need to leave. Why? School payment. She became quiet. 380. Jonah frowned. You heard that. Yes, forget it. Come inside. No, Jonah, what? Please, he stopped. That word from Evelyn Vale sounded unfamiliar. He looked at the time. 12:46. He got out. When Jonah returned to the library, most people were gone. The safe remained open. Evelyn stood near the fireplace. On the desk sat 2 checks. She handed him the first. $750, professional fee. Jonah accepted. Fair, she handed him the second. $2 million. He did not. Take it. No, my father created that reward in his estate instructions. Jonah frowned. What? She handed him another document. Augustus Vale had written, "If the safe remains sealed after my death, Evelyn may offer up to $2 million for non-destructive entry. If Samuel Reed or a direct descendant of Samuel Reed performs the opening, payment is mandatory from my personal estate and shall not be waived by my daughter." Jonah read it twice, then looked at Evelyn. "You're kidding." "No, he named me direct descendant. He didn't know I'd come here. Apparently he planned broadly." Jonah stared at the check. "I don't want it." Evelyn crossed her arms. "I didn't want to give 14% of my company voting rights to employees this morning." "Different, yes," she pointed at the safe. "Dead fathers remain annoying." Jonah laughed despite himself, then looked at the amount. $2 million. His life dividing into before and after on a piece of paper. He thought of Tessa. Rent, school, college, no more choosing which bill. No more second jobs after midnight. He thought of Claire. Pride is expensive. He took the check. His hand shook. Evelyn pretended not to notice. "Thank you." Jonah looked at her. "For what?" "Opening it. Your father planned that." "Still," she glanced toward the safe, "I would have lost control Friday. Part of it." "Enough. How do you feel?" She laughed once. "You're asking a billionaire how she feels about losing 6% of voting control?" "Yeah, I hate it." Jonah nodded. "Seems reasonable." She looked at him. "But my father may have been right." Jonah said nothing. "I was about to sell Portsmouth." "Why?" "Numbers? Bad? Terrible. How many people?" 860 jobs. Jonah looked at her. "That's a lot." The buyer planned redevelopment. "Housing? Luxury waterfront." Jonah gave her a look. "What?" "Nothing, say it." 860 people probably can't afford luxury waterfront. She stared. "You really don't know when to stop." "No," Evelyn looked at the open safe. "My father grew up in Portsmouth. So did Claire. Your wife." "Yeah, her grandfather worked at the plant." Apparently Evelyn's face changed. The connection landed. "Henry Mercer." Jonah nodded. "The key. He was employee number 27. Jonah stared. "You know that? I read the original payroll files as a child. Normal childhood. Yours involves safes." "Fair," Evelyn sat. "If Henry hadn't kept that key..." Jonah finished. "The safe might stay locked. And if Claire hadn't given it to you." Jonah looked down at his key ring. "And if Tessa hadn't run it out this morning." Evelyn looked at him. "Your daughter gave you the final key. Looks that way. Does she know?" "No, tell her." "I will." Evelyn smiled slightly. "After you pay for Boston." At 1:14, Jonah drove directly to his bank. The teller did not believe the check. The branch manager did not fully believe the check. 3 phone calls later, Vale's private bank confirmed it. A hold would remain while funds cleared. Jonah did not care. He deposited the $750 service check separately, then drove to Tessa's school. At 1:47, he stood at the front office. "Boston trip." The secretary looked up. "Tessa Reed?" "Yeah, she asked us to withdraw her form." "I know. We haven't processed it." "Good." Jonah handed over his card. $380. The secretary processed it. Approved. A ridiculous word. Approved. Jonah looked at the receipt longer than necessary. The secretary smiled. "She'll be excited. Don't tell her." "Surprise?" "Yeah." He folded the receipt. Then remembered something. "Can I add spending money?" The secretary laughed. "You handle that with her." Right, he was learning. At 2:18, Jonah stood outside his landlord's office. "Mister," Bell looked suspicious when Jonah handed him the rent. "All of it, plus the previous late fee." "Get a good job?" "Fixed a door." Bell stared. Jonah smiled. Long story. At 3:12, Jonah parked outside Tessa's school. Early? He almost never arrived early. He leaned against the truck. Children came out in waves. Tessa appeared carrying her backpack with both straps on. She saw him, then looked at the truck clock through the windshield. You're early. Apparently, did your job get canceled? No. Did you get fired? No. Did the rich lady's door fall off? No. Jonah opened the passenger door. Get in. She climbed inside. On the seat was an envelope. Tessa picked it up. What? Open it. She did. Boston trip receipt. Paid in full. Tessa stared, then looked at Jonah. No, yes, how? Advanced father mathematics. Dad, he smiled. Had a weird day. Her eyes filled. I'm going? You're going. Really? Really, she threw herself across the center console. Jonah caught her. She squeezed his neck. Thank you. He closed his eyes. $380. $2 million in the bank. And this was the moment that mattered. She pulled back. What happened? Jonah held up the brass key. Your mom opened a safe. Tessa frowned. Mom? Sort of. He told her the short version on the drive home. Not the trust, not Voss, not the money, just the safe. Grandpa Samuel. Great-grandpa Henry Mercer. The key. Tessa listened with her mouth slightly open. So Mom's key was the key. Part of it. And your dad built the safe. Yeah, and you opened it. Yeah, how fast? Jonah thought. Longer than people will say. Did you use a drill? No hammer? No dynamite? No, would have been cooler. Would have violated the instructions. Still cooler. At home, Jonah made grilled cheese. Tessa did homework. Normal evening. Then at 6:32, his phone exploded. News alert. Vale Meridian halts Portsmouth property sale. Another billionaire Evelyn Vale announces employee voting trust. Another Vale CFO placed on administrative leave. Jonah stared. Tessa looked up. Rich lady? Yep. Trouble? Probably. His phone rang. Evelyn, he answered. Hello, you've seen the news. Yeah, Adrian is suspended. What happened? Our internal investigators found something. Jonah leaned against the kitchen counter. What? The Portsmouth buyer. Yeah? Shell company. His stomach tightened. Owned by? Not Adrian directly. Family? His sister's investment partnership holds 9%. Jonah closed his eyes. There it was. Evelyn continued. He never disclosed it. How much was sale undervalued? Initial independent estimate says 40 to 60 million. Jonah whistled. Tessa looked over. He waved her back to homework. Evelyn continued. The board authorized forensic review. Good. North Star. Jonah frowned. Who? She paused. Wrong story. He laughed. Even Evelyn laughed. Then she became serious. There's more. What? Voss had access to an old memorandum from Gerald Morrow, your father's lawyer. Yes, it referenced employee voting rights triggered by Portsmouth. So he knew. He knew enough. Jonah nodded. That's evidence. You sound pleased. No, why not? Because somebody being worse than you hoped isn't satisfying. Silence, Evelyn said quietly. No. Tessa held up her homework. Dad, 1 second. She mouthed, help. Jonah said into the phone, I gotta go. I just told you my CFO may have tried to manipulate a $60 million property deal. Fractions. Evelyn stopped. What? 4th grade fractions. She laughed. Go night, Jonah? Yeah? Thank you. He looked at Tessa. You're welcome. The investigation lasted 5 months. Adrian Voss never returned to Vale Meridian. The board terminated him for cause after investigators found undisclosed financial interests connected to the Portsmouth purchaser. His compensation package included $4.6 million in unvested equity. It was canceled. The company filed a civil claim seeking $2 million in previously paid incentive compensation under its clawback policy. The Securities and Exchange Commission reviewed disclosure issues surrounding the proposed sale. Federal prosecutors later charged Voss with wire fraud and conspiracy connected to the property transaction. He eventually pleaded guilty to 1 count of wire fraud. He received 34 months in federal prison. The affiliated investment partnership paid $8.7 million in restitution and settlement funds. The Portsmouth sale was canceled. Evelyn did not simply keep the plant open unchanged. That would have made a good story. It would have made poor business. She did something more difficult. She met the employees, not executives. Employees, machinists, electrical assemblers, tool makers, maintenance workers, shipping clerks. Some families had worked there 3 generations. The employee trust elected 5 representatives. They spent 8 weeks reviewing the plant. Together they created a modernization plan. Vale Meridian invested $72 million. The oldest building was converted into a robotics prototyping center. An unused warehouse became technical training space. 112 positions disappeared through retirement and voluntary transfers. No mass layoff occurred. 3 years later, employment at Portsmouth was higher than it had been before the proposed sale. Evelyn hated admitting her father had been right. So she found another way to say it. He created a governance mechanism that corrected an executive information imbalance. Jonah laughed the first time he heard that. What? She asked. Nothing, say it. That's Billionaire for Dad told me so. She did not speak to him for 40 seconds, then admitted it was accurate. Jonah's life changed more slowly. He did not buy a mansion. He did not buy a sports car. He did not quit working. The first thing he bought was brakes for the truck. The second was a new winter coat for Tessa. The third was nothing. He sat with a financial advisor for 2 hours and understood perhaps 60% of the conversation. Then he hired a different advisor who explained things without saying tax-efficient wealth architecture. He paid every bill, created a college fund, bought health insurance that did not make him afraid to use it. Then he purchased the 2-bedroom apartment above the hardware store. The whole unit, not the building. Mr. Bell nearly fell out of his chair. You want to buy that apartment? Yes, you have $2 million and you want that place? Yes, the floor leans. I know. Windows leak. I know. The goals are psychotic. Tessa likes them. Bell stared. You're strange. Heard that. Jonah renovated slowly. New windows. Insulation. Kitchen cabinets. He kept the crooked hallway. Tessa said it had personality. He also kept working. Not general door repair. Not exactly. Laura Chen called him again. Then twice. Finally, Jonah agreed to consult. 1 safe in Connecticut, then a museum vault in Providence, then an old bank lock in Vermont. People began mentioning Samuel Reed's son. Jonah disliked that, so he registered a new company, Reed Mechanical Restoration. Tessa designed the logo, an 8-point star. Jonah stared when she showed him. Too much? She asked. No. You look weird. Family thing. He put the logo on the truck. The old lettering came off. The truck remained rusty. Tessa objected when Jonah considered replacing it. Mom rode in this. So did they. One Saturday in June, a black SUV pulled up outside Jonah's shop. Evelyn stepped out. No security visible. She carried a wooden box. Jonah looked up from a workbench. You know normal people call. I called. You texted outside. Efficient. What do you want? She placed the box down. Anna, Jonah's expression softened. You brought that here? I need something repaired. What's broken? The music mechanism. Jonah opened the lid. Inside were photographs, a silk scarf, letters, a dried flower, and beneath a false tray a tiny mechanical music movement. He turned the key. It clicked. No music. Springs broken. Can you fix it? Probably, Evelyn stared. Jonah smiled. You missed that word. No, you did. I tolerated it. Tessa came through the back room. Evelyn. Jonah looked at her. You two are on first-name terms? Evelyn hugged Tessa awkwardly. Apparently, Tessa held up a backpack. I went to Boston. I heard. It was awesome. Favorite thing? The giant skeleton. Whale? Yeah, Tessa looked at the wooden box. Is that your mom's? Evelyn's face softened. Yes, cool. Children could make grief simple without making it small. Tessa ran upstairs. Evelyn watched her go. She's good. Yeah, Claire? Jonah nodded. And you? Debatable. Evelyn looked around the workshop. Samuel's old tools hung above Jonah's bench now. Not all, only the ones he used. The canvas bag rested beneath. His father's letter was locked in a plain metal drawer. No elaborate safe. Jonah had learned something about irony. Evelyn said, "I've been thinking about something. That sounds expensive. I need a consultant. No, you don't know the work. No, Vale Meridian is building secure mechanical override systems for critical infrastructure. No, 6 days per quarter. No, 40,000 a day." Jonah stopped. Evelyn smiled. "Got you." "No," your face moved. "Tessa needs braces." "Jonah," he laughed. "Send the scope." "That's not no." "Send it." Evelyn looked satisfied, then saw the brass key hanging above the bench. "Claire's key." She pointed. "You don't carry it anymore." Jonah looked at it. "Know why?" "Found what it opened." Evelyn nodded. "Fair." He picked up Anna's music box. "Give me a week. You can fix it?" "Probably." She rolled her eyes. When she left, Jonah stood alone in the workshop. Late sun came through the front windows. Dust floated above the bench. He opened his father's canvas bag, removed the notebook. Samuel's notes filled it. Measurements, sketches, mistakes crossed out. Solutions. On the final page, Jonah had discovered something months earlier. A blank drawing. Just a square safe door. Under it his father had written, "For Jonah, when he builds his own." Jonah had stared at that page for a long time. He never built the safe. Instead, he framed the page. It hung near the door. That evening, Tessa came downstairs carrying 2 bowls of cereal. "Dinner?" Jonah looked at them. "This is your plan? You make number pancakes. I make dinner cereal." "Fair." They sat on the workshop floor. Tessa leaned against the bench. "Dad?" "Yeah?" "Are we rich?" Jonah almost choked. "What?" "Kayla says $2 million is rich. Kayla needs hobbies. Are we?" Jonah thought. After taxes. Investments, apartment, business, they were secure. That word felt better. "We're okay." "That's not what I asked." He smiled. "We have more money than we used to." "Are you going to buy a boat?" "No." "Why?" "I don't want a boat." "Rich people have boats." "Then maybe we're not rich." Tessa thought about it. "Can we get a dog?" Jonah stared. That's how this conversation was always going to end. She grinned. "Can we?" "Apartment, we own it." Jonah frowned. She had him. "School, I get good grades. Work, I can help." "No, why?" "Child labor laws. You made me sand drawers. Family exemption." Tessa leaned closer. "Dog," Jonah sighed. "What kind?" she screamed. 3 weeks later, a brown rescue mutt named Locke joined the Reed household. Jonah had objected to the name. Tessa refused alternatives. Safe? No dial? No tumbler? Absolutely not. "Locke." Jonah stared at the dog. The dog licked his boot. Fine. Years later, people still told the story incorrectly. They said billionaire Evelyn Vale offered $2 million and some broke handyman walked up and opened her father's impossible safe in less than a minute. Videos shortened it. Articles cleaned it. Internet comments turned Jonah into everything from a secret CIA locksmith to a criminal mastermind. One headline claimed he had opened the safe without touching the dial. Jonah printed that one and hung it in the workshop because it made Tessa laugh. The truth was less magical. And better. Jonah did not defeat the safe. He understood the man who built it. He asked about Anna. He found the compass. He recognized the lighthouse. He recovered the shifted wheels. He carried the key Claire had inherited from a grandfather who once told Augustus Vale no. He remembered what Samuel Reed had taught him before pride separated them. And when the door finally opened, the valuable thing was not the $2 million check. It was not the corporate codicil. Not the voting shares. Not even the documents that exposed Adrian Voss. The valuable thing was a letter from one stubborn father to one stubborn son. 9 lines. Too late. Still useful. On a cold evening the following February, Jonah closed the workshop early. Snow had begun falling over Portsmouth. Tessa waited upstairs with Locke. A pot of soup warmed on the stove. Jonah shut off the bench lights. Before leaving, he glanced toward Samuel's framed drawing. For Jonah, when he builds his own. He touched the brass key hanging beneath it, then left it where it was. Upstairs, Tessa called. Dad. Coming, locate your glove. Which one? The good one. I have one good glove? Not anymore. Jonah laughed. He climbed the stairs. Behind him, the workshop went dark. No hidden fortune. No impossible lock. No unanswered letter waiting 35 years behind steel. Just tools resting where they belonged. A father's handwriting on a wall. A daughter's footsteps overhead. And one old brass key that no longer needed to open anything at all.